We've
All right.
got kind of a crowd here, so if anyone comes up with any questions during today's call, always feel free to kind of raise your hand and ask to come up on stage and ask. I'd love to make this a little bit more interactive call. But Joe, since you're on, I wonder if we could just do kind of a check-in with you and Mav on the team. I mean, we were talking about just the amount of things that are accelerating, right? Especially in the rocket pool community, right? We've got
Sure.
Shanghai, the Shanghai Capella release, right? Capella coming up. We've got Atlas coming up. We're in the midst of audits. There's some client releases that are out there, and most importantly, which we'll talk a lot about today, is ETH Denver. I mean, how are you guys feeling? You feeling like it's gonna all come together? You feeling a little nervous? What's the sentiment like?
I am not nervous at all. I definitely feel like it's all coming together. If anything, I'm excited. It's like it's about time, right? We've been waiting for some of this stuff for a very long time, especially LEBs, and so it's super nice to see it coming to a head. Um, I just got back from vacation this week, so I'm still kind of catching up with all of the things that have been going on. And I apologize, but I'm going to be like making Proteuses in the background. So if I take a second to respond, it's because I have to unlock my phone and get off mute. But as far as all of the things that are happening, yeah, I mean, you enumerated them pretty well. The sort of like list of stuff that uh, at least is on the front of my radar. Capella is important. Atlas is important. It's what we've been building towards since, I don't know, October, something like that. That's when the first set of audits start getting planned around, and we knew that we were like basically in code freeze mode. So it's nice to finally see it actually come to a head. Yeah.
All right, Mav, and what are you thinking?
Yeah, I have to agree with Joe on that one. It's certainly busy in a good way, exciting, looking forward to it all. I think we're in a pretty good place, especially if I'm talking about my strengths in terms of the non technical marketing side. I think we're ready to make some pretty big waves in the coming weeks.
Yeah, well, I'm excited about it. So let's run through some of the agenda items here. I do kind of want to run through the front ones a little faster than we normally do, just because I want to spend a fair amount of time talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is ETH Denver. But Joe, let's start with you on kind of the node operator side. Anything you want to share with the community?
In terms of East Denver?
Well, let's just talk about. Well, why not? Let's start with ETH Denver. Let's
Sure.
start
Yeah,
there
it was
because
like it was a pretty wide
what
gamut
are
of
you
things.
most excited about at ETH Denver? What does Joe want to do and experience at ETH Denver?
Wow, this is going to be such a biased answer. I am most excited about putting together the little like. Okay, so we're going to. I believe there's a grant in place right now for Build Week to have people kind of like come over and learn how to make a rocket pool node using one of these Proteuses or two of them or whatever. And I think there's even supposed to be a raffle or something. And then after Build Week is done, I think the plan is to still like have some of those around at the Rocket Pool booth so people who are interested can come check them out and that kind of stuff. And that is, I think, most what I'm most excited about is being able to have people just randomly come up who know very little about staking, very little about Rocket Pool, show them this little box and say, this is responsible for protecting and maintaining the beacon chain, right? But this is part of the whole like validation crew, essentially. And then getting them into the protocol and seeing how easy it is to stand up a node and all of that stuff. Having like something physical and tangible that really represents how easy it is to be a node operator and the fact that anybody can be a node operator is what I am most excited about, I think. It really catalyzes the story that we're trying to tell.
Yeah, I mean, I fully support that story. I mean, it is so interesting to see this disconnect that I really think Rocket Pool can help on, which is, at DevCon, the Wi-Fi password was run a full node. There was this message or theming that more people in the Ethereum community need to help Ethereum by running a full node at home. Not necessarily a validator. Maybe they can't afford the validator, but run a node, right? And the roadblock is
Yeah.
just the technical know-how or the large number of hoops to install the software and so forth. And I'm like, dude, there's a solution. It's the Rocket Pool Smart Stack. Just it literally cannot be easier than that. And so I really hope that's one of the things that Rocket Pool can do to give back to the Ethereum community in whole is just a very easy, simple solution for people to run a full node, whether or not they choose to validate, with Rocket Pool, but at least run your node using the Rocket Pool software if you don't know how to do it manually.
Absolutely.
Nick, what about you? What is kind of your goal for ETH Denver? Like, what do you want to get out of it personally and professionally?
Well, a couple of things come to mind. First of all, it's obviously going to be great to meet so many community members at ETH Denver and to interact in that kind of volunteer space. We can probably talk about that a little bit more later on. But also, from what I've heard, it's an incredible place for networking and meeting people from elsewhere in the community. So that side of it is going to be great too. And I just hope, as a third thing, that there's a little bit of space in between for some sleep. If I think about kind of everything that's going to be going on, both during the days and evenings, it sounds like it's going to be a pretty jam-packed few days. So, yeah, really, really looking forward to it. And we're probably getting ahead of myself again. We can talk about plans for the booth and everything else later on, but that's coming along nicely.
Well, I'm absolutely excited about it, and I think the one advantage you and the team will have coming from Australia is you'll be on a time zone, sleep schedule such that you'll be more awake during the evening hours, because that is the one thing with ETH Denver is sleep is it's going to be hard to get a lot of sleep. There's a lot going on. You think there's a lot going on in crypto Twitter or Ethereum? There's a lot going on in that conference. So. But let's just keep talking about ETH Denver here. I mean, the one thing I was thinking about, and maybe you guys can correct me, is it's the first time that the entire team is going to meet each other in person, right? Are you guys going to do something special just among yourselves, like a separate retreat or a get together before the whole community just kind of descends upon you?
Well, we do have most of the 1st of March free. And you are right. I personally met the Aussies. When was that? Back in December. I guess it wasn't really that long ago. But haven't met Joe yet. So it will be the first time that the entire team is in one place. We haven't really given too much thought, but I'm sure we'll be heading out for lunch or dinner or a beer or whatever, or all of the above. On that first, though, Lang has mentioned that he's going to put in to speak at one of the side events, DeFi Denver. So hopefully he's not too jet lagged. I think that's really, aside from any booth setup, that's the only thing on our agenda right now for the first.
Yeah, perfect. Maybe if we can kind of just keep talking about ETH Denver here. So tell us a little bit about what you envision the agenda or plans are. Like, maybe walk us through when does the team arrive? When is the booth set up? What are we doing? Share with us some of the plans of the booth. Maybe share with us all the deets you can here.
Yeah, sounds good. So thanks to the magic of the dateline, we depart, or at least the Australian New Zealand contingent depart on the 28th of Feb, and we also arrive on the 28th of Feb. So we'll have that first night there and kind of get to work on the 1st, as I mentioned. We've kind of redesigned the booth a little bit from the default setup. A little bit of cost involved there, but looking to have kind of 2 areas, one for the, I guess, more introductory or liquid staking side of things, and another for perhaps more advanced users, people who are looking to spin up a node. And we will have a physical node there on site as well. I think that's something that really sets us apart from a lot of other protocols, and that there is a kind of physical, tangible component to Rocket Pool. There's something, that hopefully we can have some blinking lights and things for people to, if not touch, but at least look at. So we'll make sure to have at least one node on display, along with some screens for information, but kind of moving away from what is that standard setup they have in terms of like trestle tables and chairs, which are not really inviting and I don't think promote much in the way of interaction with people who might be wandering past. That really sounds like a a merch handout designed to me, but we will have that 1st of March do a little bit of setup, so there will probably be some setup involved. And then on the 2nd, although the opening event is the evening of the 2nd, it's my understanding based on what we have so far in terms of schedules, that the entire day of the 2nd is kind of a full day of the main event, so to speak. So we will have volunteers rostered on from the morning of the 2nd. I actually have completed a roster that was ready a few days ago. I just wanted to give an opportunity, and probably now is a good time to make the announcement again, just to make sure for everyone who's completed the form to volunteer, we collected some details in terms of how to contact everyone. And then obviously by its nature, a roster means that if we put down your Discord username, that's a document that may be shared with other volunteers. So just wanting to make sure everyone's kind of comfortable with that. If anyone had any concerns about anonymity, we'll do what we can to help you out there. But yeah, as I say, there's a roster ready. We've managed to get away with only having to do up to 2 shifts per person. I know there were a few people who indicated they're prepared to do 3 or more, and I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but I will assume that, Ken, you were one of them. It may as yet be necessary. I mean, there's no guarantee that everyone who attends is going to show up for one reason or another, or even is able to volunteer again for one reason or another. These things happen. So it's good to know we have some kind of extra resource available there on standby, as it were. Even then, we should be able to have at least 3 volunteers plus however many team members on site at any given time. And then during the peak periods, up to 4 volunteers. And yeah, all of that is just with having everyone do a couple of shifts each. And also with the dates people have indicated they're going to be there, managed to kind of split it up so there's no one on mornings on 2 days or back-to-back shifts or anything like that. So we'll circulate that roster amongst the volunteers once we're just sure that everyone's comfortable with that. And still early days, so it's possible to make changes. One additional thing worth pointing out, if there is anyone in the community who you'd be kind of particularly interested in volunteering with, sharing a shift with, so to speak, let me know and we can see if we can make that happen. But there is now a role, so anyone, again, who has completed that form, who provided their Discord username, I think there are a couple of people who dropped Telegram or Twitter handles, but yeah, if your Discord username was in there, you'll find you have a new role, ETH Denver Volunteers. So there probably will be, there will be a ramp up in communication, and we'll probably need to have a way to contact people who are on site. So we'll be making use of that handle to kind of ping people. I tossed up whether to make kind of like a separate channel or a private server or anything, but I think it's probably best that all that communication is out in the open for anyone who isn't turning up to hopefully feel a little bit of FOMO and join us the next year around. So yeah, from the 2nd on through to the Sunday, those are the kind of full days of the main event. So I'm expecting, at least for me, I'll be busy running around, probably meeting people from the industry, spending a lot of time on the booth. We will have merch available, so Dave is in charge of sourcing all of that. I can't share too many details right now in terms of what exactly we'll have available. I know there's interest for, well, a lot of things really, right? Hoodies, shirts, t-shirts, stickers, even people who've said they're kind of prepared to pay for it if it comes to that. So we'll have kind of 2 sets of merch. We'll have something or a couple of things to give away to everyone who walks up. Well, I'm not sure if it's necessarily going to be everyone. ETH Denver kind of gave this indication that 2,000 items would probably be required as a rough guideline to make sure anyone who turns up can take something away with them. I'm not quite sure if we'll go 2,000 on everything. So maybe it's going to be...
Yeah, I would even guess 2,000 is going to be too low. I mean, it'd be interesting to see if they revise that, but you know, you might quote sell out within the first day of only
Yeah.
yeah.
So maybe it's going to be very exclusive, anything with an orange rocket on it. But yeah, if you're listening, no need to be concerned about missing out. We will make sure we hold back an allocation for anyone from the community, and there'll be additional merch available for people who volunteer too. So yeah, as I said, Dave's been getting some designs mocked up. I think he's already had a couple of pieces made and some changes in the works. So we will have that available to give away. I also, from what I've heard, there are people who, run around and try and collect as much merch as possible. There's always going to be that, and that's fine. I guess that's kind of part of the experience. But we're going to make sure that the booth is designed in a way that, if we can, to perhaps get these people to, not just run by and grab something and move on, but kind of come into the booth area. Perhaps something catches their eye, and there's kind of an angle to engage with them that way. Again, we're going to make sure that we have content available that appeals to both extremes, right? People who perhaps don't even know what staking is, and then there may be someone who's run a node since before you were able to do so with a rocket pool. So yeah, that will be running all the way through till Sunday. It'll certainly be a busy few days. From what I've heard, there is still a little bit of work that the ETH Denver team is doing around organising bits and pieces. We still don't have our booth location locked in just yet. That hasn't opened up unless they've done that overnight. But we are going to be in the DeFi zone. So there's a few different areas. I think they call them tracks. I think half a dozen comes to mind. So there's one that's like NFT, metaverse gaming. Obviously not us, but there are a couple of others that we might have kind of fallen into, ended up being in the DeFi zone. And there's another topic that a few people have kind of been mentioning lately and noticed in the ETH Denver Discord as well. And that's people who may have applied for tickets under the kind of paid option and are looking for some help to join the DAO and to get that free version. And I have to say, this is not limited to just the community. We've got from the team as well that issue to kind of sort through. And we haven't been given a resolution yet. But if there is anyone in that situation, feel free to drop me a DM on Twitter or on Discord, and we'll do what we can to make sure that, at the very least, if and when we hear more, we pass on that information. But obviously, we want as many people as possible to attend, especially people on the call, people from the community, people who have indicated they're willing to help support in a volunteering role.
Yeah, on that point, for anybody that did, I mean, I think even the folks at ETH Denver would agree the ticket issuing process this year has been kind of a little bit of a disaster. But yeah, I mean, I would strongly just recommend people join the DAO. If you didn't join the DAO, if you had concerns over it or didn't know what it was, but it's a great Ethereum aligned supportive DAO that really just tries to host this ETH Denver. But my advice, and my ticket got screwed up as well too. And what resolved it for me is if you go to the ETH Denver, the Spork DAO Discord, there's a support channel, and you can talk to, I think it's a little bot in there that creates a ticket for you, and it opens up a support thread. And in there, I was able to work with Tyler, one of the community members from ETH Denver, and they were able to resolve my ticket issue. And I would just really recommend doing that, opening a thread and just kind of being a little bit of a squeaky wheel, because that did really trip up a lot of people. And I'd hate to see people pay $600 for a ticket that they really don't need to, because knowing the Rocket Pool community and how ETH aligned we are, and knowing the Spork DAO and how ETH aligned they are, it's a great DAO to be a member of to get the free ticket. I also see in trading, Whack Whack Attack is pretty excited that he's going to be able to attend ETH Denver this year, and he really wanted to work more shifts. So I think you might have to give him a few extra shifts in there, because honestly, this is going to be one of my highlights. Not only to work the booth and share my knowledge of Rocket Pool with others and staking that may not know how to do it or to run a node. But I also think it's a great way to just meet in real life members of the community here. So that's why I'm kind of really excited to help volunteer there. But I certainly don't want to displace anybody else's opportunity to work the booth, because it is going to be so much fun. And the real big benefit I see that it has is maybe twofold. Is one, the devs really have to, I mean, there's a lot that goes on in these conferences, and one very important thing is the partnerships with other staking providers, other client teams. And I think it is quite a benefit for us to, kind of help take some of the workload from the booth. So that way the dev team can literally have meetings with, partners like Eigenlayer, right? We really need to think of that post withdrawals, or some of the client teams. Joe can, meet in real life some of the dev team from the client teams. It could really help better integrate Rocket Pool, especially if Langers and Dave can work with some of the bigger players there to create those strategic alliances. And the more people that work the booth and support UMAV and helping do that, and even freeing up some of your time so you can be in some of those strategic alliances, it's going to help the whole protocol.
Well, first of all, I know what I'm going to do after this call ends, and that's create a Discord support ticket over in the Denver Discord. But yeah, that's great to hear that there is a possible resolution, because the latest I heard was that they hadn't even worked out how to do that yet. So that's a great development. But to your point about volunteering, yeah, it's a bit of a trade-off, right? I mean, I'm sure there's people who, well, we know there's people who are willing to do 3 or more shifts, and there's probably also people who would be willing to hang around at the booth kind of all day. But it is a bit of a trade-off, right? We don't want to make it too formal and structured and send people away. But at the same time, we do want to give everyone a bit of an opportunity. And it may very well be the case. We do have quite a large booth. I think it's 10 by 20 feet, whatever that is. In metric, it seems pretty big. I guess kind of the size of a single car garage, if you guys have them in the States. But yeah, who knows? Maybe the 3 people during the kind of low periods isn't enough. Maybe the 4 people in the peak periods isn't enough. And we'll be sending out some at ETH Denver volunteers pings to get some more people to come on over. But of course, everyone's welcome at the same time. Just because it's not your shift doesn't mean you have to stay away. I suppose the only thing would be that if there kind of is an opportunity to interact with someone who's wanting to learn about Rocket Pool or has any kind of questions, maybe don't jump on them if there's people rostered on. But otherwise, I can see the space being utilized for community kind of discussions and collaborations as well. So yeah, it's great that the ETH Denver team managed to lock us in with that larger sponsorship package that gives us the increased booth size, because there is obviously there's going to be a lot of us attending. From the form, the last time I checked, we were up to 37. There still seems to be kind of 1 or 2 trickling in every week now. Of course, the entire team's going to be there. Of course, there's going to be a lot of curious people in the audience, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about when it comes to the Rocket Pool protocol. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just seeing Object is post a thing that says, it doesn't look like you can open tickets in the Discord. They're having you redirect to an email address, so maybe they're trying to improve their support thing. But I've been attending the community calls on Friday, so I'll try to raise this as an issue too, just to give some love and attention to these issues as well. So, but just keep trying through all venues. That's my best. I love ETH Denver. It's great, but it is it's relies a lot on volunteers, and so sometimes it is not the most efficient or organized event planning organization that's out there, to put it kindly. But it's definitely well worth it once you get there. Kind of think of it as Burning Man. It's going to take a community to pull it off here. But now,
just to jump in, I have seen the floor plan. They have released that in terms of where the booths will be located, and just looking at the physical size of the event, and we know in terms of the the amount of interest, the number of protocols on the waiting list, how many people will show up. It's got to be a bit of a nightmare, really, to organize. From my past experience of organizing like 1-day events with maybe 100 people max, I know the amount of work that's involved. Like, when it's a paid role, let alone, as I understand it, a lot of these people are kind of helping out in volunteer capacities when it comes to ETH Denver. So, yeah, can understand that they might be feeling the pressure a little bit, but these things tend to come together in the end. So, yeah, I'm sure this will be no different.
Yeah, at least from last year, we just kind of had to roll with it, but everybody made the best of it. And looking back, I don't think anybody had a bad experience. It was just all part of the craziness of ETH Denver. So looking forward to it this year. And that's why I think it's great to have such a large volunteer staff, because you never know what is going to happen through the Rocket Pool booth, and having an army of people that are willing to volunteer for Rocket Pool, I think, is really going to help out a lot. A lot of people have been asking questions about the kind of social events for Rocket Pool, right? We'll have a couple of evenings, and I think there's a couple of plans to do something. Do you know when they are? I know that Sassano released his daily Gwei dinner and beers with Sassano, or whatever that is. And so a lot of people were aping in. If you haven't already bought the tickets, they are capped at that. They're only asking $10 as a cover charge. I'll post, or somebody can help me post. It's in the ETH Denver channel, but we can get it into trading as well too. So you should definitely get your tickets to hold that. But do we know the dates or the times that we can start planning around as all these other protocols release their party and after party tickets?
Yeah, we're going to have to make sure we deconflict with the Daily Way. I was hoping to lock in our events this week. So we're going to obviously have a bit of a workshop component in terms of Joe helping out to kind of demonstrate how to get a node up and running. So aside from that, we're going to have kind of one social event, and that's around the interest in terms of bowling and any other activities that people may be keen on. My thoughts were, well, it really has to be either a Friday or a Saturday time slot. So I'm sure, considering the number of protocols, the number of events, the number of people who have kind of reached out to us to see if we would co-host, there's going to be some conflict when it comes to dates and times. There's only so much time available, but we should have that information out this week, and it's likely to be either on the Friday or the Saturday.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree that trying to get those locked down, because I'm sure every other protocol in the world is trying to grab venues for it, and I don't know if we're looking at the same venues or not, but I'm sure they'll go. And yeah, I never thought about kind of co-hosting with somebody. It'd be great to have one of Rocket Pool's strategic partners come join us. Be great to kind of meet some of the people there. And I'm also thinking some of these social events might be a great way to kind of bridge the gap between some of the ODAO members and PDAO members, and just to kind of help build a little bit of relationship there. So I'm hoping a number of them would be able to attend.
Well, it looks like Sassel's event is Thursday, 6 p.m. So we should be good there in terms of people who are wanting to attend both.
Yeah, perfect. But yeah, definitely grab the Daily Gwei tickets, because I'm surprised there are even some available this morning. But definitely grab them. Anything else over at ETH Denver, or Joe? Anything on ETH Denver that you wanna do? Like, or you want to share a little bit more about the workshop you're doing, and what do you need to pull that off?
Oh, the workshop it's not me, because I'm not going to be there for that part. That's during build week, and I think there's a grant in place by Fornex to do it. So I have to make sure he has his supplies, but he's going to be taking care of that, like how do you build stuff. I'm more like, from the booth perspective, I'm more there to show off the entire, like, how to set up a node in real time for anybody that wants to combine stuff like that. If Matt, I don't think we're doing like a workshop during the actual week, are we?
That was the plan, to have something
Oh, we are.
arranged
Okay.
while we're there. But
Cool.
yeah,
Well, in that case, I am very excited about doing that. Was
Yeah, but in
one of the things I was lamenting is that I wasn't going to be able to be there for the build week stuff. But if I get a shot at doing it anyway, then perfect. There you go.
yeah, one of the things I put in for that Joe would love to just pass off to you if accepted is, how to use Rocket Pool to just build a node to run at home, right? And
Oh
because
yeah.
they kind of have that no shill zone part for the main event, and but I felt, hey, there's nothing wrong with showing how to use the Rocket Pool stack to run a full node. And boy, I haven't counted the instruction steps, but I think ours are less than 10 steps after you have Linux set up. And the ones I went to at DevCon were literally they were like 50-step processes, and I thought, and I've done this before.
Yeah, if we want to do like a little how to set up a full node, like we're talking about not a validator, right? Just a vanilla node to help with the network kind of thing.
Yeah, at least that's the one I put in for, just to so that way it kind of meant there are no shill requirements. I think you can only shill if you're a sponsor, but thought, hey, that's still a great way for people to learn how to. And boy, once you get to that point, how hard is it to run Rocket Pool node deposit, right? The work's done, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think that would be good.
Yeah, yeah. So excellent. Okay, so it seems like things are going great, Nick, on the planning here. I'm absolutely stoked for it. It is not too late for folks that are listening to this. If you want tickets to ETH Denver, just apply on their site. They keep saying they've got plenty of space in the venue. We'll see. Last year it was literally elbows to elbows in the space, and there was a long queue line to get into. It's kind of like our deposit pool to even get into the into the venue. But they keep assuring us that this. I don't know how it's going to work, but this rodeo arena, livestock, that formerly had livestock the week before ETH Denver, will hold us all. So I guess we'll find out. Anything else on ETH Denver before we go back to the regularly scheduled items of Rocket Pool?
I think that pretty much covers it. Yeah, again, in terms of roster, there's probably going to be an additional announcement, some more information to be shared between now and next week's community call, which is going to be particularly exciting. But yeah, we can have a chat about that later on in terms of the other items to come.
Yeah. So Joe, let's swing back to the top of the agenda and talk about node operators. What should we be expecting? When the next candidate release? Let's walk us through.
Oh man, so yeah. The next candidate release is a good question. It's not up to me. It's up to the client devs. Basically, I had been hoping to get the version 1.8 release, which has Nimbus split mode support and Lodestar support, out by the end of the week. Basically over vacation, or while I was gone, the Lodestar guys released version 1.3 of their stuff, which is their ready to go with Docker optimizations. Rocket Pool can now use this kind of release. And so I got back on Sunday/Monday, depending on what time zone you're in, and I gave it a shot. And the ARM version, which obviously I'm biased towards, was having some issues. So I'm working with their development team, kind of debugging, diagnose. My suspicion is that they're going to need to push another release, like a 1.3.1 or something, to resolve those ARM issues. It's not something we can do out of band. So I suspect 1.8 is going to be delayed accordingly until they have something that's ready to go, which means basically just stay tuned. I don't know when it's going to happen. In the meantime, there's not really much happening from the node operator's perspective outside of that. 1.7.2 seems to be a pretty solid release. People are using it fine. This is the first release that changes the rule set for the rewards tree, but it doesn't do it immediately. It waits until the next interval to do it. I believe most, if not all, of the members have probably updated by now, so I'm not too worried about there being any major contention as far as we noticed last time there were some consensus issues of people submitting the wrong thing, so I don't think we're going to have that again. So yeah, I would say from a node operator's perspective, it's pretty relaxed. We're kind of in receive mode right now, waiting for the client teams.
Okay. What about on the rETH front? I don't know, Mav, if you want to take this one, but what should, if an rETH holder is listening to this thing, anything that they should be kind of know of that's in the works?
Well, probably something worth noting is the rETH premium. It's come down quite a bit lately, and that's due to the actions of a master arbor who's been selling their rETH at the premium to then get another premium for spinning up mini pools with the Rocket Arb contract. So pretty smart play by them, but it does mean that the premium has dropped down a little bit. It certainly hasn't gone to a 3 point something% discount, which is what the Discord bot was showing at some point. I haven't checked it lately, but that is certainly incorrect. And we are kind of still sitting around the 1% or so premium. I think it may have spiked up a little bit lately. It did drop below 1% at some point. But aside from that, I don't think the rETH situation has changed very much. There's still some decent APRs available if you hunt around on Optimism. The last time I checked earlier in the week, that was still over 10%. So that may be of interest to some people, not financial advice, of course. And there is an interesting development on the Aura rETH ETH liquidity pair, and that's through MySO, MYSO, which is a protocol that is working on tokenized yield. They may have already put out their announcement as we've been speaking, and we from the Rocket Pool side are going to follow up with something announcing that opportunity. So I won't share too much information on this call, but keep an eye out for that. Or if you want to go and hunt down the MySO announcement, that's probably available. Just while I'm talking, I will go and grab their Twitter. It seems to be, well, at the very least, there is a Medium article, I believe, which is medium.com/MySoFinance, MYSO, M for Mike. That may provide some interesting opportunities in the rETH space. And what else on the topic of rETH?
Yeah, one interesting thing I saw that is a grant that was submitted was actually one to kind of document all of the DeFi integrations for rETH, and I thought that could be a very useful roadmap because it is kind of hard to keep up with all the places you could use rETH.
Yeah, that's fair. One good source right now, not perfect, but it's probably the best out there, is of course DeFi Llama. And that's what I was going to say in terms of, I suppose it is rETH, but if you were LPing the RPL rETH pair, the ratios obviously shot up quite a bit lately. Certainly it'll be a lot higher than the last time we had this call. So that may be something that you want to check on. I know for me personally, it's worked out quite well because the ratio's back to a kind of a similar area to when I launched mine. Maybe a little bit higher now, but for a long time it was tracking quite a bit below. So there was some impermanent loss sitting on that position. But yeah, ratio is up very strongly, of course, which obviously links back to what we kind of mentioned at the start of the call regarding the attention on the LSD space.
Yeah, perfect. And I see Nashua already kind of posted some information about the MISO finance there, or the MISO finance. Joe, you mentioned a little bit about the ODAL, about you believe most of them are on the newest smart node stack. But what was the latest with the ideal about the heartbeat monitoring? Did that gain any traction, or did it run into some technical difficulties?
Okay, so I'll tell you how the conversation went around the heartbeat. So I'm a big proponent of having something in there so that we can keep tabs on who's running which version, whether or not it's working properly, and that kind of stuff. Because right now we are definitely in the dark outside of those submissions. We don't know like what people are doing until they actually submit, which is, I would say, it's not ideal. So I brought the kind of candidate ideas over to the team and pitched, what can we do to give us that information while not being super invasive, essentially. And there were kind of like two candidate ideas I think that had the most traction. The first one that definitely had the most, which is interesting, is the idea of changing the quorum, sort of the way the quorum works on balance submission in particular, because balance submission, which is like a daily responsibility, the Oracle now has to uh, relay how much Ether is up on the beacon chain, how much people have earned essentially, so it knows what the rETH price is. That's right now. The Oracle DAO will submit balance calculations, and as soon as quorum is reached, which is 51% of members, as soon as 51% of members agree on what the balances are, then it just kind of like stops taking any submissions from other people. So basically, it's already been calculated. You don't have to do anything. So the execution reverts very quickly in that case. Uh, the first idea was basically to make that always a thing, so it no longer obeys the quorum rule, and now every ODAO member has to submit the balances. And that way we can see kind of what rule set they're using for the tree, because the balances is inherently linked to the rule set for the tree. So we can see if they're using an outdated smart node version or not. And it shows us that their node is actually up and running, which we don't kind of have right now, because some of them just take a really long time to do the calculation, and by the time they finish it, quorum has already been reached by the faster nodes, so they just never submit anything. So that was the first idea. It's slightly more expensive as far as gas costs go, because now they have to submit something, whereas previously they didn't. But it's really not that much. I think it's the pros outweigh the cons in this case. And so that's something that they're talking about provisionally slipping into Atlas, is basically changing that quorum rule for balances specifically, so everybody reports them. The second idea, which had some interest as well, but it does have kind of added complexity, which meant that it had to be discussed a little bit further, was the idea of using Praetor as a way to have each of the Oracle DAO members kind of like submit this heartbeat. And so the idea there would be we would have a special contract that only lives on Praetor, and it takes in like a string of what smart node version you're using, for example, and the latest balance submission that you had posted on mainnet, or what at least you had calculated, and then takes that. So instead of submitting something on mainnet, you're submitting something on Praetor, maybe with a little bit of extra metadata. It can be whatever we need, really, as far as like keeping this heartbeat thing alive. And the pros there are it's quote unquote free because it's Praetor, so you don't have to deal with the added sort of gas cost of submitting these things. And in my opinion, it's probably good for the Oracle DAO members to be running Praetor nodes anyway, so they can test new smart node releases, new rule set changes, anything like that, before applying them and making them go live. But the downside is there is not really a link right now for an Oracle DAO node on mainnet to communicate with a node on Praetor, so it does add a little bit of complexity there. I don't think it's that much. I can certainly, like in the smart nodes configuration section right now, there's a little box for doing like an archive execution client for Oracle DAO nodes, so I could probably just add another box there for like a Praetor node to submit these things or something. So I don't think it would be the end of the world to do so. But it does add some complexity, and right now I think they are leaning more towards the mainnet idea of just making the balance submission apply to everybody instead of obeying the quorum, that kind of stuff, and that would be suitable for a heartbeat at least. But I don't think they've come to a decision on which one they're going to do yet, so that's still up in the air. But it's definitely going to be one of the two.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, thanks for kind of sharing that in there, and maybe keep the community up to date as as the decision is reached in there, because I know there's a number of folks that were interested in that process, and I think that would be really good in helping the PDAO keep track of the performance of the ODAO. So
Yep,
now
definitely.
Yeah. Now, what about Atlas? What are the kind of highlights for Atlas that you feel the community should kind of know about here?
From a node operator's perspective, okay. How much time do we have? We have about 15 minutes left. I'll TLDR the highlights from Atlas real quick, I think, and this is going to be slightly off the cuff here, so I might be forgetting something. I would say, most important feature that Atlas brings is the ability to transition from a 16 ether bonded mini pool like we have today, where you put up 16 ether, down to what is colloquially known as an LEB8 within the community. Formally, that is a reduced bond mini pool, which means you only put up 8 ether per your mini pool, and you take 24 from the stakers, which has some interesting ramifications as far as rewards go. There's certainly reasons to both create new LEB8s and migrate your existing 16s over to LEB8s, which is actually pretty cheap to do, because essentially in doing that migration process, you get a second mini pool for free because you've already paid 16 ether, and now you just get 2 8s, essentially. It also brings over the ability for solo stakers who currently run solo staking nodes and validators to convert their solo staking nodes into, or solo staking validators rather, into Rocket Pool mini pools without having to exit and relaunch a new validator. They can just take what's already there and say, okay, this is a mini pool now, essentially, and get all the rewards that comes with that accordingly. There is, let's see, that is the LEB stuff. Withdrawals is probably going to be pretty big, although that's more of a Capella thing. I would say Atlas adds support for skimming, which seems to be how withdrawals are going to go. And that's essentially for every validator, your balance above the initial 32 ether deposit gets taken and sort of given back to your ETH1 address, in this case, your mini pool. And so you get access to all the rewards without needing to exit the mini pool or anything like that. You can just kind of keep on validating as you do now. And so that's a good way to get some supplemental income, I suppose, for validators, which is pretty exciting.
Okay. And then what about just like timing of this, right? We're still, I want to make certain we're still on schedule here, right? As Consensus started its second or its first audit, but the second audit of Atlas?
I don't think so. I think they start next week.
Next week, okay.
Yeah. As
Yeah.
far as the timing goes, I don't know if I have anything to share on that. That's a language question.
Okay. And then what about just kind of projected timelines? How to kind of spitball it right now between when do the audits conclude? When do we get the audit reports? When does the code on really Prater? When when do we kind of see the timing of this thing playing out?
Yeah, this is definitely languagey type stuff. What I can tell you is the audit reports won't come out until both audits are finalized. They usually wait for, so we'll have like Consensus and Sigma audit stuff independently, and we don't want them using each other's reports as like cliff notes to kind of catch what they've missed or anything like that. So we usually sit on those reports until we have both of them from both companies, and we've gone through the whole like let's fix things and have them check our fixes, and now they're happy with it kind of process. And once all that stuff is done, then we release them so that everybody can see what's going on. As far as when that goes, I don't know. That's up to the Consensus whenever they finish and we do that whole feedback loop process. My guess would be it would probably be sometime in February, hopefully, depending on how long they actually take. And then as far as Prater stuff goes, we definitely don't put anything on Prater until we get those reports back. And we've confirmed that everything is good to go. So I suspect you'll see the Prater launch probably shortly after we do that final handshake with Consensus. And if we're aiming for February for that, then you could probably see February for Prater. And then mainnet would happen a couple of weeks after that, so sometime in March, maybe early April, depending, would be my guess. But that's not set in stone. Don't put me on it.
Okay. And there were rumors, maybe Mav knows this one, there were rumors of a Medium article coming out that kind of explains what you just did about Atlas. Any hints or Brad about when we can expect that Medium article?
So I do know that Langus has drafted up a first cut of a very detailed timeline. So that includes all the different dates for hopefully, the audit period, as we've just discussed, testnet, mainnet, testing by the community, things like that. So based off of that, I've kind of sketched out when we might be doing various announcements and calls and bits and pieces. I'm not sure if this timeline is finalized. I don't want to give dates right now, but I think, at least for me, I'm splitting up things in terms of pre-ETH Denver and post-ETH Denver. I think obviously our presence there and the opportunity is great to be able to spread the word about Atlas and LEBs. So certainly we'll have stuff out before ETH Denver. At some point in February is probably what I would say right now. Probably we're talking like mid to perhaps later on in February, and ideally we'd want to have that detailed Medium article out, and then also a call to run through it, just like we did back in the day with Redstone, and have that all cleared away to make sure everyone's up to date, and there's some content out there for anyone who runs across us in Denver and wants to find out more.
Yeah, perfect. And we're only 49 days away from ETH Denver, so I think I'm looking forward to all these kind of events happening, in very quick succession here. It's going to be as much, I think, as much hype and as much buildup as we had going into the merge. I think will be withdrawals here. I think it's going to be very pivotal.
Yep, for sure.
One of those things that I wanted to call attention to in kind of the governance section is I actually propose, with the help of Val and Nashua, some protocol changes setting changes to the protocol. As part of the Atlas launch, there's the opportunity, or perhaps maybe the need, to adjust some of the existing settings we have. There's some limits in the deposit pool, and there's some limits in the rETH contract for the amount of ETH that it will retain before it overflows back into the deposit pool. And if we adjust the deposit pool settings, it creates this opportunity for a large arbitrage. I think our initial estimates were about 20 ETH arbitrage that could be captured. And so one of the questions that's proposed is whether or not Rocket Pool should capture it and return it to the rETH holders. And we debated it, and it's one of these things that, I don't know, Joe or Mav, your opinion on it, but it's sort of like a glass half full or glass half empty. There's really no right or wrong way to approach this thing. There's certainly arguments for not changing the settings. There's arguments for reducing some settings, and there's some arguments for increasing them. And so we put together kind of our best thought or best consensus, but we really wanted to call attention to it to the community, because it really should be a kind of a larger community debated question and recommendation about these settings. So I did want to call just attention to that ODAL post, because at some point prior to the, in my opinion, prior to the launch of Atlas on Gorilla, we'd probably want to have those settings established by the PDAO and actually test those settings on Gorilla.
Yeah, that did come up in one of our stand-ups. So the guys are across that, and I guess, will be a point that maybe we have to kind of highlight a little bit to prompt some additional discussion within the community in terms of the best way forwards.
Yeah, it's been a little radio silence there, but I'm hoping that with this call, and I've asked kind of whackers to, kind of highlight it on one of the Rocket Fuel episodes. But if you're listening to this, please just take a minute to look at it, or post in the Discord and ask what other people's opinions are on these things, because it would be kind of nice to get them close to right from the get-go, versus having to always kind of do post Atlas, both with withdrawals, changes on these things, trying to tune the protocol. May I have anything from either the IMC or the GMC that you think we should be highlighting?
I think right now GMC is definitely worth mentioning. We have that cut off for the first round of applications for grants and bounties, including retrospective awards, and that closes at the end of the week, so 15th of January, just before midnight in UTC. So for those of you in the Americas, it may be before the end of the week by a few hours. I'm not sure exactly how strict that deadline is going to be. But yeah, if you're intending to apply, there's not much time left. We're going to get an announcement out from the Rocket Pool Twitter account as well, just to give everyone another reminder. That's probably the main thing worth mentioning on this call right now.
Yeah, fully agree with that. It's time to get your applications in, both retroactive applications for work you've already done and want to be remunerated for by the PDAO, both for grant applications for something that you can build or contribute that you want to be receive funding for, and then other ones, even if maybe you don't have the technical ability and just think, hey, this is a great idea and Rocket Pool, the PDAO should be supporting it, should be offering what's called a bounty for it. You can propose the work or the objective, and then once the bounty is approved, people will compete for that bounty. So definitely spend some time to think about this and look at it. I encourage everyone to see how they can actually help Rocket Pool via the grants application. And then last but not least, the obligatory inquiry about the team and the size of the team and if there's going to be any expansions. I know you guys have been thinking for a while about expansions, but certainly with the bear market and some of the conditions in there, is that still the plan? Do we need to do I need to create a bounty to write the job description for Langers? What's the latest, you know?
Few Langers topics on this call so far. That's definitely going to be a post-ETH Denver thing, just judging by the volume of what's been going on. I would be very surprised if Langers is able to get that out pre-ETH Denver. So, I mean, feel free to bring it up on the chit chat in a couple of days, but I think realistically it's something that will be looked at least in a couple of months' time.
Okay,
that's purely speculation by my part, but yeah.
Excellent. I'll bring a box with a little slit in the top that says job applications, and people can fill them out at our booth.
Make sure it's an orange box.
Yeah. All right. Anything else here as we're approaching kind of the bottom of the hour? But it's been an hour on the call. Is there anything that we haven't talked about, including next week's really exciting community call? What do you want to end with, Mav and Joe?
I think that's a good high point to end on for sure.
What are we going to expect?
Well, I think it has been teased at some point. Can't quite remember. But we're going to get the one and only Justin Drake to join us on the community call. So we'll be hosting the Twitter space from the main Rocket Pool account, as we've done in the past. And there's going to be, what should be a very interesting chat. Obviously, Langers will be on as usual, and we'll be discussing probably a range of topics relating to MEV, relays. Obviously, the reason for this call is due to Rocket Pool supporting the Ultrasound Money Relay. So expecting a pretty good turnout for that one. I believe we kind of confirmed that you'll be hosting that as well, Ken. We have to run it at a slightly earlier time than usual, so or at least an earlier time than usual for our other week Twitter space. So it'll be around the same time as this call. So Langers will have to put on an early alarm, and that's to align with Justin's time zone, which I understand is close to kind of UTC, UK, Europe kind of part of the world. So if there's any questions in particular that you have, we can probably touch on a wide variety of topics. It could end up being quite a long call. Specifically in the areas of kind of MEV relays, what we see the future of ETH staking. Drop them in, I'm not sure, as a reply to maybe one of the Ken's tweets about this Twitter space, or of course in the Discord you can ping me. If we get a large volume of requests, maybe we can start a separate thread. I guess the ETH Denver channel is probably up. We have a community called Twitter Space channel. It's probably a good place to check them. Let me just go find that where that is. It's a thread underneath the trading channel, so you may have to go and hunt for it. RP Twitter Spaces. But yeah, it's I believe a little bit early for Jasper. He may or may not be on. We might have another kind of all-star cast, but that's certainly one not to miss.
Yeah, I'm incredibly excited about that. I think there's a lot of questions that it'd be just great to ask Justin about, because he's so ingrained and so at kind of a hub of Ethereum, right? It's kind of one of its leaders in there, that I think we can really think of some great questions to ask him, especially some rocket pool related questions that it'd just be great to pick his brain and opinion on. So I'm really looking forward to that. Joe, what about you? Any last concluding remarks for the group here before we conclude today's community call?
Yeah, I'm doing something fun tomorrow that I think you guys are going to like. I don't know when you're going to see it, but I know that I'm doing a fun thing. So stay tuned.
Okay, I'm curious now, but I'm looking forward to it. All right, Mav, Joe, it's been a pleasure again, and everybody else that has joined the call here. It's always one of my highlights of every other week is to spend some time chatting with the team to learn the latest. And for everyone else, I incredibly love talking to you all on the trading channel and in Discord. And I am just absolutely stoked that we're approaching ETH Denver, and I hope to meet as many of you from the community as possible. So with that, I think I'll let us go for the day.
Sounds good. Thanks for hosting, Ken. And likewise, ETH Denver's looking like it's going to be a great time. So looking forward to meeting everyone over there in the US.
Pleasure as always. Thanks for hosting, Ken.
All right, Joe. Well, at least be safe tomorrow with whatever you're going to do, but I'm looking forward to learning about it.
I will do my best.
All right. Talk to y'all later.
Cheers.